I wish to thank everyone for attending this lecture this afternoon. If you look at the screen, you will see South China Sea, West Philippine Sea dispute. The West Philippine Sea is only a part of the larger sea, which is the South China Sea. The West Philippine Sea refers to the body of water which constitutes the territorial sea, exclusive economic zone, and extended continental shelf of the Philippines. What is at stake in this dispute in the West Philippine Sea? At stake for the Philippines is 80% of our exclusive economic zone, comprising 381 square kilometers of maritime space and 100% of our extended continental shelf, estimated at over 150,000 square kilometers of maritime space, aggregating a huge maritime area of over 531,000 square kilometers, larger than the total land area of the Philippines of 300,000 square kilometers. Either the Philippines keeps this huge maritime space, or we lose it to China. If you look at this shaded area here, that is the area of maritime space that we will lose to China if we lose this dispute. Larger than the total land area of the Philippines. So the stakes are very high. This dispute with China is the gravest external threat to the Philippines since World War II. The root cause of the South China Sea dispute is China's 9 dash lines claim, which gobbles up large areas of the EEZ of an extended continental shelf of the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Indonesia. If you look at the screen, you have the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, Malaysia again, Indonesia in the Natuna Islands, and Vietnam. And the 9 dash lines gobbles up large areas of this EEZ of these countries, including the high seas. These are the high seas, about 20-25% of the South China Sea. In total, the 9 dash lines enclose 85.7% of the entire South China Sea, and China claims ownership of all those waters within those lines. This is the map that China submitted to the United Nations in 2009. China did not explain the legal basis for the dashes. The dashes have no fixed coordinate. China said China owns the areas here within the dashes. The Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia protested, and that map was attached to a note verbal of China. And in the note verbal, China said China has indisputable sovereignty over the islands in the South China Sea and the adjacent waters, and enjoys sovereign rights and jurisdiction over the relevant waters as well as the seabed and subsoil. Now, the terms adjacent and relevant waters are not UNCLOS terms. They are terms that China just injected into the dispute. We asked China, what do you mean by adjacent and relevant waters? What's the meaning of the 9 dash lines? China has refused to explain. So we have to define the meaning of the 9 dash lines, relevant and adjacent waters, by going into the acts, regulations, and declaration of China with respect to its South China claim. So let's go to them. In 1988, China seized Subi Reef from the Philippines. Subi Reef is here, located in the high seas of the South China Sea. It's a low tide elevation. A low tide elevation means at low tide, you see the elevation, it's above water. At high tide, it's covered with water. And under UNCLOS, only the Philippines can exploit a low tide elevation within its extended continental shelf. Only the Philippines can put up an artificial island. China just ignored that. China sees this and this was not even reported in the papers in 1998. We hardly learned about it. We came to know about it only recently. Now, Subi Reef is outside our EEZ, but within our extended continental shelf. I will explain later to the extent of the extended continental shelf. Now, Subi Reef is very close to Pag-asa. It's just 12.2 nautical miles from Pag-asa, the largest island that we occupy in the Spratlys. So that's the meaning of 9 dash lines. China will seize waters in the high seas. Will seize extended continental shelf belonging to the Philippines. In 1995, China seized Mischief Reef from the Philippines. Mischief Reef is again a low tide elevation. At high tide, it's totally submerged. It's within now, within our EEZ, deep within our EEZ. It's part of our submerged continental shelf. Under UNCLOS, only the Philippines can exploit this area. Only the Philippines can put up an artificial island here or structure. China just ignore that. So that is the meaning of the 9 dash lines. China claims ownership of waters and the submerged continental shelf deep within the EEZ of the Philippines. In 2010, the Philippines awarded a service contract to Sterling Energy, that's the predecessor of Energy Forum, to explore and exploit this area. Service contract 72, and China protested. China sent a note verbal to the Philippines on February 22, 2010, expressing its strong objection and indignation and asserting indisputable sovereignty, sovereign rights, and jurisdiction over the Spratlys and its adjacent waters. China demanded that the Philippines withdraw the service contract immediately. China sent another note verbal on May 13, 2010, again demanding that the Philippines immediately withdraw the decision to award the service contract to Sterling Energy. Now, this service contract here is just 85 nautical miles from Palawan, well within our EEZ. It's very far from Hainan, 595 nautical miles. Under UNCLOS, under international law, the most that a country can claim, because of the geology of the South China Sea, is 350 nautical miles from its shore. That's the most that you can claim as your maritime zone. So the meaning of the 9 dash line, China claims the waters, the energy, all the minerals within the EEZ of the Philippines. Now, on 2 August 2010, the NIDO office in Manila received an email directly from the Chinese embassy in Manila requesting for a meeting between a Chinese embassy official and the officials of NIDO Petroleum, and that meeting was held. And in that meeting, the Chinese embassy officials showed a copy of the 9 dash lines and told the NIDO officials, you are exploring in an area that belongs to China, stop it. And that scared NIDO Petroleum. Ever since, NIDO Petroleum didn't do anything anymore with that contract. So, under the 9 dash lines, China claims ownership of the waters here in the Reef Bank. In 2011, the Philippines published an international bid. We invited bids for the exploration of areas 3 and 4 in the Reef Bank, well within our EEZ. On July 4, 2011, China protested and sent a note verbal to the Philippines stating the Chinese government urges the Philippine side to immediately withdraw the bidding offer in areas 3 and 4 and refrain from any action that infringes on China's sovereignty and sovereign rights. In other words, under the 9 dash lines, China claims sovereignty and sovereign rights over areas 3 and 4 deep within our EEZ. That's the Reef Bank. That's the meaning of the 9 dash lines. Now, in 2011 of March 2011, a Chinese Coast Guard vessel prevented our Philippine Commission ship, MV Veritas Voyager, from undertaking survey here in the Reef Bank, well within our EEZ. Now, the 9 dash lines cuts through Malampaya. Here is Malampaya, these are the 9 dash lines. And Malampaya is our largest operating gas field in the Philippines. It supplies 40% of the energy requirement of Luzon. And in 10 to 12 years, Malampaya will run out of gas. We have to develop a new area, and that area should be the Reef Bank, but we cannot develop it, we cannot explore it, because every time we send a vessel there to survey the area, the Coast Guard vessels of China appear and drive our vessels away. Now this is very critical because 10 years is just a short period. We have to develop the lead bank, but we cannot develop the lead bank. Now in 2012, China published this map in the international papers. The map is entitled Location for Part of Open Blocks in Waters under the Jurisdiction of the People's Republic of China, available for foreign cooperation in 2012. In other words, China said to the world, we offer this for exploration, for concession. And where is this? This is Vietnam, this is Hainan, Palawan. That's the exclusive economic zone of Vietnam. That's the expanded continental shelf of Vietnam. So these waters are within the EEZ of Vietnam. But China just offered it to the world. Here, you can have this. We will sign a contract. So under the 9 dash lines, China claims ownership of waters within the EEZ of Vietnam. In 2013, China published a new map. They call it the vertical map because the orientation is vertical to show the South China Sea. And in this map, China added a 10th dash on the eastern side of Taiwan. So the 9 dash lines are still growing. I still call it 9 dash lines, although there are 10 dashes now. And in this map, China calls the 10 dash lines as its national boundaries, without explaining the legal basis for that. Now, the term national boundaries has very grave implications, because what is enclosed by your national boundaries constitute your national territory. And we have to protest. So we sent a note verbal to China on 7 June 2013 stating the Philippines strongly objects to the indication that the 9 dash lines are China's national boundaries in the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea. That map is an official map of China published by Sinomap Press, the official mapping agency of China. This is the 2013 map. Here is the 10th dash on the eastern side of Taiwan. And if you look at the legend of the map, this is the shading here of the 9 dash lines. The Chinese characters here mean national boundary. So China claims this as its national boundary. This is the same shading as its land boundary here. So China treats the waters here as in the same manner it treats its continental land territory. That's why we have to protest that. Now, China has always considered James Shoal as its southernmost border. Where is James Shoal? Here. James Shoal is just about 80 kilometers from Bintulu, Sarawak in Malaysia. 950 nautical miles from Hainan. As I said, the maximum that China can claim from Hainan is 350 nautical miles. It's claiming 950 nautical miles from James Shoal. And James Shoal is within the EEZ of Malaysia. Now, James Shoal is a fully submerged area, 22 meters below the surface of the water. It's not even a rock above water. It's totally submerged all year round. China claims it as its southernmost border. And therefore, if you claim this as your southernmost border, all the waters between Hainan and here are also your waters. That's the meaning of the 9 dash lines. Now, for some time now, China has been sending a naval task force to James Shoal. This is a naval task force that was sent last January 2014. And this naval task force dropped steel markers in James Shoal, saying that this is the southernmost border of China, and the sailors conduct an oath-taking ceremony that they will defend with their lives the southernmost border of China. Here, they're having an oath-taking ceremony here. Now, in 2012, China seized Scarborough Shoal from the Philippines. Scarborough Shoal is within, in the midway in our EEZ, 124 nautical miles from Zambales. If you recall, from April to June of 2012, there was a standoff between Chinese Coast Guard vessels and Philippine Coast Guard vessels. The Americans brokered an agreement for a mutual withdrawal. We agreed, China agreed, so we withdrew. China did not withdraw. And until now, those Coast Guard vessels of China are still there. Scarborough Shoal has been a traditional fishing ground of Filipinos ever since the Spanish times, but we cannot go there anymore because the Coast Guard vessels of China, water cannon our fishermen. So under the 9 dash lines, China claims ownership of Scarborough Shoal deep within our EEZ. Now, in 2013, China seized Lucunia Shoals from Malaysia. In June 14, 2015, the Malaysian security advisor posted this in his website, in his Facebook, and he stated there in his Facebook, this small island is not a disputed territory, but the foreign ship which came here has included into our national waters. That foreign ship is the Haijing 1123, a Chinese Coast Guard vessel, which anchored here April of 2013. This ship anchored here April of 2013 and has stayed there up to now. It never left. It's being resupplied by other Chinese Coast Guard vessels. The Malaysians didn't want to publicize this. They wanted to keep quiet, play nice to the Chinese maybe, hoping that this vessel will just go away, go back to China. It never left Lucunia Shoals. It stayed there up to now. Lucunia Shoals, it's just 50 nautical miles from Sarawak, also a traditional fishing ground of fishermen from Sarawak. The fishermen from Sarawak complain now that they cannot go to Lucunia Shoals to fish. The same complaint that our fishermen in Zambales and Pangasinan are airing. So under the 9 dash lines, China claims ownership of Lucunia Shoals, very far from Hainan. Now in 2014, China installed this oil rig here within the EEZ of Vietnam, and of course the Vietnamese workers rioted. They burned Chinese factories in their export processing zones. Vietnamese fishing vessel sank near the rig after being rammed by a Chinese vessel. Now, here's the worrying part. Recent reports reveal that China is building 3 more Type HT-981 rigs for deployment in the South China Sea. I expect China to bring one of those oil rigs here in the rig bank soon. So under the 9 dash lines, China claims ownership of the waters within the EEZ of Vietnam. In 2014, January, China, through Hainan province, promulgated the Fisheries Regulation, Article 35 of the regulation state, foreign fishing vessels entering the waters under the jurisdiction of Hainan must secure, to engage in fishing must secure approval from the Chinese authorities. The Fisheries Regulation applies to Macclesfield Bank. Macclesfield Bank has been our traditional fishing ground. It is part of the high seas. Here is Macclesfield Bank. High seas, we have always been going there before. We cannot go there now. Now, China through Hainan claims to administer the waters within these lines, and it includes the high seas. This area here is administered by Guangdong province. So under the 9 dash lines, China claims to regulate, administer even the high seas, which is contrary to international law, because as I will show later, the high seas belong to the global commons. It cannot be subject to the sovereignty of any state. Now, every year China imposes a fishing ban, a 3-month fishing ban in the high seas, and on 6 July 2015, China sent a note verbal to the Philippines saying that the Philippines must educate its fishermen so they can strictly comply, abide by the fishing moratorium. Otherwise, China will investigate and punish the relevant fishing vessels and fishermen who violate the fishing moratorium. The high seas, they're preventing our fishermen from going to the high seas in Macclesfield Bank. They cannot do that. Now, the high seas have always been part of the global commons, whether before or after UNCLOS. UNCLOS declares the high seas are open to all states, whether coastal or landlocked. Freedom of the high seas include freedom of fishing. Even a landlocked country like Nepal, Laos, Austria, Switzerland have a right to fish in the high seas of the South China Sea. They cannot be stopped because it's open to mankind. It's part of the global commons. UNCLOS declares, no state may validly purport to subject any part of the high seas to its sovereignty. China cannot subject the high seas to its sovereignty. It just completely ignores UNCLOS, completely ignores international law. I call this the grand theft of the global commons because China is stealing what belongs to mankind. Now, all of these acts of China, among so many others, demonstrate beyond doubt that China is claiming sovereignty, sovereign rights and jurisdiction to all the waters, fisheries, oil, gas, mineral resources, seabed and subsoil enclosed by the 9 dash lines. It's very clear. We should not doubt it anymore. That is the claim of China. Some of our people are still in denial. But it's very clear. The actions of China are very clear.